So as we approach number 9, what I want you to do is consider any negative number inside the parentheses as a number in itself. In other words, like negative, this one would be negative 2 to the first power. And in the second set of parentheses, I want you to consider that as negative 3 to the first power. And when we, our first step is always just to get rid of the parentheses. Okay, so we're going to remember we have power to a power. So power to a power, I want to show you the rule. So when we have a times b to the nth power, consider that as a to the n times b to the n. So that's kind of one way of looking at the rule. But then also, if you have a to the m to the n, we're going to multiply the exponents. Okay, so when we have power to a power, that's we multiply. And so if we put all of that together, so kind of combine these two, if we have a to the m times b to the n, and we raise that to the, what other letter could we use? P. All right, so we could write a to the mp times b to the np. All right, so these are the properties of exponents that we are going to keep in mind as we simplify our expression. So we have negative 2 to the first power, and we have all of this whole thing, negative 2 times r to the negative 4. We have all of that raised to the second power. So power to a power, getting rid of parentheses, then that gives us negative 1, or sorry, negative 2 to the 1 times 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. Then we have r to the negative 4 to the second. So r to the negative 4 times 2, that's r to the negative 8. All right, on to this one. We have negative 3 to the 1 times negative 1. So we have negative 3 to the negative 1. I'm running out of room. Then we have r to the 2 times negative 1, which is r to the negative 2. And then we have z to the 8 times negative 1, which is z to the negative 8. I can squeeze it in there. All right, so then we've gotten rid of the outside parentheses that have an exponent on the outside of them, but you can still see sets of parentheses in here, and that's just so we're taking the negative 2 and we're saying, okay, negative 2 is one number, and we're raising negative 2 to the second power, and negative 2 to the second power is negative 2 times negative 2. All right, so that's 4. That's different, and you need to be careful that you don't write it as negative 2 to the second power like that, because negative 2 squared, we square the 2 first, and that's negative 4. So these are definitely different. We have a 4 and we have a negative 4 depending on how you write it. Anytime we square anything, we are going to get a positive number. I mean, at least 0. So we could square 0 and get 0, but any non-zero number, when we square it, we will get a positive number. So anyway, negative 2 squared gives us 4. Then we have this r to the negative 8 up on top. We're going to make that r to the 8th on the bottom. Then we're going to multiply that by negative 3 to the negative 1. So let's just actually put everything together into one big fraction. All right, so negative 3 to the negative 1 is going to become negative 3 to the positive 1. I'll show you how to handle that in a minute. And then we have r to the negative 2 up on top, and that makes r to the positive 2 on the bottom. And then we have z to the negative 8 on top. That makes z to the positive 8 on the bottom. Now, let's clean it up a little bit. We want to get this negative 3 out to the front so we can write, we would like to write these factors that are the numerical factors. We'd like to write those out in the front, put those in the coefficient position. And we have negative 3 to the 1, which is downstairs, which is just negative. The whole thing is going to be negative because you can bring the negative out in front here, make the denominator negative, which makes the entire fraction negative. Because the numerator is positive, denominator is negative, therefore the entire fraction is negative. So that's where that minus sign comes out. We can move that minus sign out in the front. Then we have the 3 downstairs. We have, so we have r to the 8th times r to the 2nd. That's r to the 8 plus 2 is 10. Then we have z to the 8th. And that is the best way to write that. Let's see if we can squeeze a couple more in here. I like to keep the videos about 5 minutes. So there's a couple different ways we can approach this problem. I like to take, when I have a fraction inside parentheses raised to a power, and that power is negative, I like to take the reciprocal inside the parentheses raised to the positive. So in other words, since anytime we have a negative exponent, we take what's on top and put it on the bottom, and we take what's on the bottom and put it on the top, and we raise it to the positive. So that's the kind of the line of thinking there. Now we have inside. So inside we have 4 times m to the negative 2 to the second power, because anything over 1 is just that anything. Now we can raise 4 to the second power. So we have 4 to the second power. And then we multiply that by m to the negative 2 times 2, and that's m to the negative 4. And we can clean this up a little bit. We're going to take 4 squared, and we're going to make 16. And we're going to take m to the negative 4 on top, and we're going to make m to the positive 4 on the bottom. That's it. One more video.